What's up, Giants fans, Hub watchers, YouTube watchers, subscribers, Giants Nation in general? It's your boy Noname back at it with another video. And I said this was gonna come out. This is kind of another mock draft. I don't want to call it mock draft 2.0, but let's say it's like mock draft 1.5. It's an idea I've had in my head for a while now. What if the Giants trade down from pick 6 to get a couple more first rounders or some first, seconds, and thirds? Because I've been thinking, like, if we don't go Haskins or we don't go an elite defensive player, I don't see us going an elite offensive tackle. There'll still be an elite offensive tackle available at 17. Like, for example, I think Jonah Williams might drop. I think Andre Dillard is going to be there, maybe Cody Ford. And I considered all those 3 elite offensive tackles. So I kept thinking to myself, they have a lot of options at pick 6. And one of them that nobody's really talking about, except for the Entertainer. Shout out to the Entertainer, by the way. He recently subscribed to me a couple days ago. I'd like to give a big shout out and thank you to him. You guys should go over to his channel and subscribe. He's a great YouTuber for Giants and just New York sports in general. But yeah, other than the Entertainer, he's starting his own series on that, like scenarios the Giants can be in. I just wanted to do a couple scenarios here what they could do with pick 6. So let's get right into it. Once again, not gonna spend too much time on the picks. Oh yeah, and also because I have more than one scenario here, I actually just have 2 that I really thought of. I'm only gonna do the first 3 rounds of the draft, because if I do all 7 rounds for both scenarios, it's like doing 2 full mock drafts, and well, it is a lot of work. It would be an extremely long video. So let's get into it. So the 6th pick. The New York Giants trade the 6th pick to Miami. The Miami Dolphins receive the 6th pick. The Giants receive their 13th pick, along with Miami's 2nd and 3rd rounder. Now, I think this is possible because I think it's very possible that Miami is just bluffing about the fact that they won't go for a quarterback this year. The theory right now that everybody has is that they're going to tank the upcoming season so that they could get somebody such as Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa. And man, his name is tongue twister, Tagovailoa. I probably still butchered it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. The consensus right now is that Miami is going to tank the 2019 season so that they could get Tua for the 2020 draft. Now, that could very well be possible, but obviously in this scenario, I have them trading up, and I have them trading up to get a quarterback. Now, the Giants would trade down in both of these scenarios because they would believe, say I'm Dave Gettleman, he would believe that, hey, there's not anybody here that I like to take. Specifically, there's not any quarterback I value with the 6th pick. And maybe the defensive player that he wanted to drop here got taken, such as a Devin White. So you got a reason for the Giants to trade down, accumulate a lot more assets, and then you got a reason for the Dolphins to trade up. They want their quarterback now, because I can't tell you who's their starting quarterback. I think it's Fitzpatrick, but we all know the movie on him. Good 1 second, terrible the next. So then, now with the 13th pick in round 1 of the 2019 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Clelin Ferrel, defensive end out of Clemson. Now this guy right here, this is one of my personal favorites in the entire draft. He's a player I think that's going to be a star in the NFL. If you guys recall that gut feeling video I released, not sure if I mentioned him or not, but I have a gut feeling about him that he's going to be great, man. In fact, almost the entire Clemson defense, not all of them are going to be great, but in college they were all great players, man. That entire defensive line, Christian Wilkins, Clelin Ferrel, Austin Bryant, and Dexter Lawrence. All of those are potential first rounders, with the exception of Austin Bryant, because I mean, when you got 3 other stars on your team, you don't shine as much, and he I think would be a diamond in the rough, probably go 3rd or 4th round. But that entire Clemson defensive line, man, let me just tell you the stats for Ferrel alone. In his senior season, he had 53 stops, 19.5 of them for a loss, 11.5 sacks, 4 pass breakups, and 3 forced fumbles. And it's not like this was just one breakout season. No, he's been pretty consistent. The season before that, he had 63 tackles, 18 for loss, 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. And that was in 14 starts versus this year being in 15 starts. I think this dude is a beast. He's definitely would be more fitted for, say, a 4-3 defensive end. And given his weight, I don't know if he could convert to linebacker easily. His measurements are 6'4", 264 pounds. His arm length is 34 inches and his hands are 10.5 inches. This guy's absolutely huge. He's a beast on the field. So going back to that point about being defensive end, how would he fit into our system? I think we could either have him on that D-line, have him on the opposite side of BJ Hill. I wouldn't have a problem with that. He's going to come up and tear up the interior. Or have him as a strong side linebacker. Maybe he'd need to lose some weight. I don't know how he'd convert, but I just think he's good enough that he could fit into any system, really. Now then, moving on to the 17th pick. And I did say, in order for these trade downs to happen, the Giants would have to give up on a quarterback at 6. They wouldn't believe in him. But I do think they would be willing to take a quarterback at 17. In this scenario, of course. So I have us taking Drew Lock, quarterback out of Missouri. And y'all might be thinking, Lock is not going to last to pick 17. And I'll respond with, this is, in fantasy land, just a little bit. But the way I see it, Murray would go first overall. Because Miami traded with us, they'll take Dwayne Haskins. And after that, there's not any really quarterback needy teams. The Jaguars, they got Nick Foles in free agency. You could definitely argue the Broncos. I think they would be the biggest threat for Drew Lock to not drop to 17. Everybody knows John Elway loves him. But they already got Flacco, and you'll be like, well, Flacco's not nearly enough upside as compared to Drew Lock. And yeah, I'd agree with that. But he already matches John Elway's favorite prototype of a quarterback. Tall, strong arm, pocket passer. I think he'd be there for a year before they try to get somebody. I think they'll probably get somebody in next year's. And for the Bengals, everybody thinks they're going to try and get a quarterback this year. I don't see it just yet. While I do think their tenure with Andy Dalton is close to over, I also think they'll probably move on for him next year. So, what can I say about Drew Lock? He kind of matches the mold of quarterback that's been taking the NFL by storm the past couple of years. Relatively tall, good height, but big arm and can move like a beast. This guy reminds me of Josh Allen from last year and a little bit of Carson Wentz from the year before. The way he plays, there's times when he makes throws downfield, you're like, that's an NFL throw, you're like, you don't know how he made it. But at the same time, there's times he throws the balls in the dirt and you're like, what just happened? So that's a problem with him. That's why people have him as the 3rd or even 4th best quarterback in this draft. His inconsistency. I think he has a lot of raw potential, and I don't exactly like to use that word because you could say potential about anybody, but he has it. He can become something great, but not immediately. He'll have to sit behind somebody for a while, which kind of matches what we're gonna do here. Whoever we take, if we take a quarterback, is gonna end up sitting behind Eli for at least half a season. He's gonna need to sit back, learn, get into a couple more than one offensive training camps, and then I think when he comes out in his 2nd year, he'll be the guy for us. Quick measurements and quick stats before I move on. He's 6'4", 228 pounds, 9-inch hands, with 32.5 wingspan. And in 2018, he threw for 3,500 yards on a 62.9 completion rate with 28 touchdowns. So into the 2nd round we go. So moving along here, with the 5th pick in the 2nd round of the 2019 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Mack Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. Mack Wilson is personally, in my opinion, for the 2nd round, probably the best linebacker you could get in that round. Now then, he's not nothing to really compare to say, the Devin Whites and Devin Bushes of the world, but he's also nothing to sleep at. He's like the version of today's linebackers that are every down linebackers. They could stay on there for run stopping, they can stay on there for pass coverage, and they could just stay on there to tackle guys. He has good size, strength, and toughness. His measurements real quick. He's 6'1", 240 pounds, 32 3/8 inches of his wingspan, and his hands are around 9 inches. Wilson was honestly one of the best defensive players Alabama had. Now you already know they had Quentin Williams and such. He wasn't the best, but he's one of the best. I think he was definitely their best linebacker. So there's a lot of eyes on him. But he's definitely going to go in the 2nd round because of just what teams need, what every team needs, and because, like I said, there are better defensive players in this draft compared to him. Still nothing to sleep at, right? In his final season, he had 40 tackles, 2.5 for loss, 2 pass breakups. And then in the national championship game, he had 12 tackles, 2 for loss in Georgia. Didn't really get up any sacks. And in 2018, he had 71 tackles, 5 for loss, 2 interceptions, and 5 pass breakups during the season. So this guy right here, he, like I said, he could do the coverage, he could do the tackling. He's a good, reliable, every down back, and I'm pretty sure he has some experience on the inside too. So if we draft him, we could put him on inside or outside. Me personally, I'd put him on the outside. Now going on to the 16th pick in the second round, the one we got from Miami. This one I'm excited about, and I know you guys have been asking, hey, where's our right tackle? Here it is. We got Yadni Kajust, tackle out of West Virginia. Yadni Kajust is actually the one tackle I wanted to put inside my original mock draft, the more formal one, I guess you could call it. But in that draft, we didn't have the 16th pick in the second round. I know for sure Kajust would have been gone by then. And listen, Kajust, he's like the prototypical tackle, not really a modern day NFL tackle, but of course, I think he's still starter caliber. 6'5", 312 pounds, 34-inch wingspan, and 10-inch hands. Now, because of his size and strength, he's perfect to stand against bull rushers in the NFL. And the reason he's risen on draft boards, like, say you go back a couple months ago, back when everybody was making mock drafts way too early, he wouldn't even be sniffing the 3rd or 4th round. He was really down there. But he's risen because every time he's in the game, every time you see him on the field, he's redefining and refining how he performs against these pass rushers. He's a really flexible player mentally to readjust his game. And I think that's what we need at our right side. Not to mention, he actually shared the Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year award with Dawson Reisner, who's another one of my favorite tackles, but he's going in the first round, and Drew Samia, a guard out of Oklahoma. This guy right here, he's the real deal. Now going into the 3rd round with pick 14, once again from Miami. If this was, we didn't have Miami pick, we would have been picking all the way towards the end of the 3rd round with 31. But with this pick, I think we should go Blace Brown, cornerback out of Troy. Blace Brown, interesting story. He's a long cornerback, a tall, long cornerback, 6 feet tall, 194 pounds, 32-inch wingspan. Like I said, tall and long. But he's not as fast as you would expect a 3rd round corner to be. And I don't hold that against him. That's because in 2018, this guy was recovering from an ACL tear. So he lost a bit of a step, but everything else is still there. He has great eyes, great anticipation. In 2017, because like I said, 2018 tape, yeah, there's a knock on him because of his speed, but he still has everything from 2017, which is football IQ, ball awareness, and ball skills. All those things, I think, are NFL caliber. He plays with a really above average IQ to these corners. I think comparable to Byron Murphy, who in my opinion is the best corner in this class in terms of football IQ. He can read the offense. Blace Brown here could read the offense like it's nothing. And because of his height, he's great for 50-50 balls. In college, he was one of the best corners at 50-50 balls. He could jump up and get them. I think taking this, just taking the speed out of context, he would have been a 1st or 2nd round pick. Blace Brown out of Troy, guys. So then now moving on to our final pick in this scenario, round 3, pick 31. I think the Giants should select Amani Hooker, safety out of Iowa. Hooker, he's one of these athletic freaks in the draft, and for some weird reason, there's not that many prospects where you could actually access all of their combine results on NFL Network. On the NFL.com. But Hooker is one of them, and I'm just gonna read them off to you. At the 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.48, extremely fast. At the bench press, he did 14 reps, strong. Vertical jump at 37 inches, above average. Broad jump of 123 inches, I think that's one of the best, for safety at least. 3-cone drill, he ran 6.81 seconds. 20-yard shuttle, 4.1 seconds. And 60-yard shuttle, 11.59 seconds. And this is at 5'11", 210 pounds, with a 30-inch wingspan and hands about 9 inches. So, he's tall. He's, close to 6 feet tall, and he's athletic, but he's also strong. What does that equal? A great hybrid safety. You could use him in the Giants defense is either a tackler such as Landon Collins, but obviously I'm going to be drafting him for the free safety spot. So I want them to use him as a coverage safety that could cover tight ends and sometimes running backs coming out the backfield. And very similar like Blace Brown, one of the best positives about this guy is his play recognition, ball awareness, and football IQ. He knows where the ball is at all times and he knows how to get to that person. He might not be the fastest, because remember 40-yard time does not necessarily equate how you run on the field. But he's fast, but he's not quick. You know, quick in terms of acceleration to get to his top speed. So to make up for that is the football IQ. I think with the right scheme, he could develop the latter half of his skills that he doesn't have right now. Most importantly, his range and then ability to handle single high coverage. I think if he gets into the right scheme and right role, he could develop that quite easily. I want him for the Giants. And that's about it for the first scenario. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with me not going quarterback in terms of us to trade down. You can even tell me you don't want to trade down at all. That's fine. But let me know what you think about the picks. And some of you might be wondering, why am I going so fast? That's because, as I said, I have two scenarios. If I went just a little bit slower, this video would be forever. We're already at like 16 minutes in on the recording. So let's move on to my second scenario. And in this one, we trade with Denver. So then, Denver receives the 6th pick. The Giants get the 10th pick, and Denver 2nd and 3rd. Now, kind of complete opposite what we did at the quarterback position last time. Here at the 10th pick, I say Dwayne Haskins does fall to us. And once again, there's a reason, just like how there was a reason for Drew Lock falling to us. Say we trade with Denver, they're going up to take Drew Lock. Jaguars, they're not taking anybody. I think they might go Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle. Who's between 7 and 10 that would take a quarterback? We got Detroit at 8. And at 9 we have the Bills, who obviously got their quarterback in last year's draft. So if this scenario happens, I think it would be the more realistic of the two. And I can see Dwayne Haskins dropping, unless somebody trades up into the top 4. But for the sake of the scenario, I don't have that happening. So I have them taking who I personally think is the best quarterback in this draft, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State. Now then, because I have multiple videos on Haskins, and because in my mock draft 1.0, I have him there, I have him taking there, have the Giants taking him there. I've already done an analysis on him. If you guys want to see it, click on the eye above and go to that mock draft for the analysis, because I'll just move on to the next pick here. And then at pick 17, now with pick 17, I actually originally went Brian Burns again, but for the sake of not having 2 picks in a row where it's basically the same as my mock draft 1.0, I thought to myself, who could be here that the Giants need? Now I wanted to go an edge position, so that would be either defensive end or outside linebacker. I looked at the possible outside linebackers available here. We obviously got Mac Wilson. We got people like Devin Bush and Jachai Polite. But I don't think any of them I would really take with 17 overall. For example, I think you could get them in the 2nd round. So then I'm like, who could possibly drop a little bit? I think that would be Rashawn Gary, defensive end out of Michigan. And you guys might be asking, there's no way he's dropping that far. But let me give you the rundown of the draft before the 17th so far. In my opinion, how it would go in this situation. Now, Cardinals would take Kyler Murray. I have the 49ers taking Nick Bosa. Jets taking Josh Allen. Raiders Quinnen Williams. Buccaneers, surprise, surprise, I have them going Devin White, as most people do. Then, of course, the Giants with 6 went Dwayne Haskins. Jaguars take Jawan Taylor. Lions, Greedy Williams. Bills, Andre Dillard. Broncos, Drew Lock. Bengals, Ed Oliver. Packers, Montez Sweat. Dolphins, Cody Ford. Falcons, Clelin Ferrel. Redskins go Marquise Brown, and you guys might be asking, why not a quarterback? That's because the top 3 quarterbacks are off the board. You could go Daniel Jones here, but I personally think you could get him in the 2nd round, and that's where I would really value him. And then the Panthers right before us, Dexter Lawrence. So with that lineup, it's not too out of this world. Teams get positions of need there, and they get really good players at positions of need. So there's a good chance Rashawn Gary will drop. And Rashawn Gary, truthfully, just speaking here, no bias at all, he's truthfully a top 10 talent in this draft. He might, like, I have him in that 7 to 10 range. He's one of the best defensive ends in the draft, and he fits the 3-4 scheme actually because of his size. So we could have him out there opposite of BJ Hill. He's 6'4" and weighs in at 277 pounds. For that size, he still ran a fast 40, 4.58. He was still strong, 26 reps on the bench press. Still athletic, vertical jump of 38 inches and broad jump of 120 inches. What can you possibly not like about this guy off of just the combine stats? And if you don't want to go by combine stats, let me give you his actual stats from college. And actually, his stats for 2018, he played a little bit on the interior instead of on the edge where he did in his freshman and a little bit of sophomore year. But this guy is amazing. He had 38 total tackles, 6.5 of them for a loss, and 3.5 sacks on the inside. His total career at Michigan, he got 119 tackles, 23 for loss, and 9.5 sacks. From the interior, that is amazing production, especially at a school like Michigan where your competition, every game you play is top level competition. He's absolutely somebody I'd consider a 5-star talent, and I'd love to have him on the Giants interior, man. And now in round 2, pick 5. Instead of fulfilling the offensive tackle position with our second round pick, I'm going to fulfill it now and grab somebody that I think could be a future superstar, Dalton Risner, offensive tackle out of Kansas State. Now Risner, he got average length, and he's about average athleticism for his position. When you watch his tape, and I might actually put up some tape here for an offensive tackle, you can see he got what it takes to block guys on the NFL level. He has good core strength, absolutely great body control, and strong hands. He can take care of the bull rushers and the speed rushers. That's mostly because he has good mechanics, he plays wide and gets low, and the way he goes about tackles is similar to actually how the new offensive guard for the Giants, Kevin Zeitler, does it. He goes at them like an angle or like a look, as they say, so that he doesn't necessarily have to put all his strength into it. And that's an advantage, really. You could get the job done while conserving some energy. I'll throw some tape up to show you guys what I really mean. And then just his measurements before I move on. 6'5", 312 pounds, 34-inch wingspan, and 10.5-inch arms. Then, like I said, average athleticism for his position. Ran a 5'3" at the 40. Bench press 23 reps. So like I said, he has good core strength and good upper body strength with that 23 reps. Vertical jump of 28.5 inches, broad jump of 110 inches, which I think, I mean, people consider that average. I still think it's good considering he's a big man. And then he did do the 3-cone drill. He ran 7.69 seconds. And then now if there's like anything any knock I could put on him, is because, you know, he's going in the 2nd round, it has to be a knock. It would be that his stamina and endurance. For example, there was a Mississippi game. You could see that he wasn't really performing up to par as he did in the first half towards, like, say, the 4th quarter, because that was an extremely long game for them. So he does need to improve on stamina and endurance. I think that's easily fixed. Let's move on. Now then, with the 9th pick in the 2nd round, this we got from Denver, the New York Giants should select Jachai Polite, defensive end out of Florida. Jachai Polite, people had him going top 15 just a couple weeks ago, and now he's dropped completely out the 1st round. I think that if that happens and we pick him up, it's an absolute steal, because he's in like that 2nd echelon of top defensive ends and top edge rushers in this draft. But first, measurements. Y'all know me by now, I love my measurements. 6'3", 258 pounds, 32 and around 33 inch wingspan, and 9 3/4 inches hands. So just by giving by his height and weight, he can definitely slide into that offensive, my bad guys, outside linebacker position. No problem at all sliding him there. To go with that size, He has pretty good speed, which this is the one time I'd say don't pay attention to his combine results, because he ran a 4.84, but there's a good explanation for that. He showed up to the combine heavier, and that was because he had hamstring issues for that like entire week, almost the entire month. So he couldn't couldn't really work out to keep the weight, the natural weight off. As you stop working out, it comes back on pretty quickly. But then also because of the hamstring issues, he couldn't really do most of the testing at the combine. Still showed up, which is great. Couldn't really do it though. On tape though, this guy's extremely fast. He's extremely instinctive. Got great goat. That's true. He does have goat-like ball extensive skills, and goat as in the slang, greatest of all time. Well, let me give you his stats real quick. He led the Gators in his last year that he played with 17.5 tackles for loss out of 45 total tackles and 11 sacks. Then he led the nation with 6 forced fumbles. So if you guys watched my last video with Justin Hollins, that guy had a nose for forced fumbles. This man right here, Jachai Polite, I think is just a better version of Justin Hollins. Only thing I'm concerned about, his injuries, and towards the end of his year at Florida, there were some issues with coaches, but that's more of a character issue, which I think can be fixed, and it doesn't really show on the field. So, Jachai Polite, I think he's going to fit right in. And then if you just look at this scenario right here, we have Rashawn Gary coming from the inside. He could get sacks from the inside, and just Jachai Polite and Lorenzo Carter coming from the outside. Not to mention BJ Hill. I can't believe I forgot about him. Towards the end of the year last year, BJ Hill came on. I think we plugged up quite some holes here on the Giants defense. But we're not done yet, because there's still 2 holes that we need to plug up, and they're both in the secondary. And that's why with the 7th pick in the 3rd round of the 2019 NFL Draft, yes, this is the pick we got from Denver, the New York Giants select Jamel Dean, cornerback out of Auburn. Woo-wee. Man, do I love Jamel Dean, because Jamel Dean is a sleeper, an absolute sleeper for day 2 in this draft, man. He has a great combination of height, weight, and speed. 6'1", very tall corner. I like that. 206 pounds, packs a punch because he's strong. And then, let me tell you his speed at the 40, 4.3 seconds. Y'all do realize that's faster than Saquon Barkley, right? Who's possibly the fastest person on the Giants team right now, after Odell left. In fact, I think even with Odell on there, he was probably faster than Odell. Like I said, he had the strength, 16 reps on the bench press. Vertical jump of 41 inches. Absolute unit. Broad jump of 130 inches. This guy is athletic, but he's strong and fast. That's not all. He has the skills to pay the bills, y'all. In 2018, he played 11 to 12 games. He had 30 tackles, 2 of them for loss. 2 interceptions, 9 pass breakups. 9 pass breakups. The only reason he missed 1 game is because there was a problem with his knee. That's fine because it wasn't too serious. You know it wasn't too serious if he came back at the combine and ran quite possibly one of the fastest times, not just for safeties, but I think at the entire combine this year. So let's review real quick what we got with Dean here. He has an amazing frame, and he has the strength and quickness to play in press coverage. Because of that speed, he can cover anybody in the deep routes, and because of his size and his vertical, he can go up and get 50-50 balls. And this is an interesting stat that I found about him. In 2018, he allowed less than a 40% completion rate to receivers that he was covering. I'm telling you guys, he's being slept on. I think it's because of that injury and his knee problems. Not really an injury per se, but knee problems that he had. I think it's because we got guys out here like Greedy Williams, Baker, and Murphy. But Jamel Dean, I think, is one of the best corners in this draft after those guys. We should definitely scoop him up. And so then now moving on to the next pick we have in the 3rd round. This is the one we got from Cleveland. With the 31st pick in the 3rd round, New York Giants select Darnell Savage, safety out of Maryland. Like I said, we had that other hole to plug up. It was going to be the safety spot, free safety to be specific. Before I get into something, I just like to say, don't you guys love that name though? Darnell Savage, especially the last one. I think a name of players sometimes just match the position they play, like Greedy Williams. Greedy for the ball. He's a cornerback also, in case you guys didn't know. And then Darnell Savage. He's a savage for the ball. let me get off that. Let me get off that and tell you about this guy. Now, Savage is 5'11", 198 pounds with a 31-inch wingspan and 9-inch hands. He has average to below average strength with 11 reps on the bench press. But what this guy lacks in size and strength, he makes up for it in instincts, IQ, and coverage quickness. Like our man Dean here, he ran a 4.36, still within the 4.3s at the 40-yard dash. Had 39.5 inches on the vertical jump and 126 inches on the broad jump. And he may be small, but he's really dense. His frame is compact and is just packed full of muscle. He's like the safety hooker that we took in the last scenario. Very hybrid-like. Can play as a big nickel, but I think he would be better suited as a coverage safety, which is why I'm drafting him as a free safety here. That's what we need to plug up the hole on defense. Now, in his senior year, which was this past 2018 season, he earned a second-team all-conference notice. Got 4 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, 52 tackles with 5.5 for loss. So like I said, I think those stats are better than Hooker's. In terms of interceptions, Hooker had 9 pass breakups, I think. But like I said, better as a cover safety, but he still has the ability to come down and tackle as James Betcher would like to do with his secondary people. So yeah, guys, that's my 2 scenarios. You can already see the video is long. I'm sorry I had to go through the picks quickly, but this is why it's already at 31 minutes in, and I try to spend just a little bit of time on each player. But let me know what you think about this this vid right here. What you think about these 2 scenarios? Which out of 2 you think is more realistic? Which players do you like from each scenario? Maybe you could do a mix and mash of both. Who would you take if the Giants were in this position? Now, personally, I like the second scenario better. One of the main reasons, of course, is because we still get Dwayne Haskins, and then we still get really good players on defense. I think the first one might be more realistic though in terms of the trade. So yeah, let me know what you all think. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. If you want more content like this dealing with mock drafts, let me know. I have ideas in my head. That's about it. I'm gonna end it off with a year.